All right, you're just in time for this conversation to continue on the BBI now. Let's shift gears. Senator Kimani Wamatangi has stepped out for a bit, but is back now. And still with me is Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Senator. Dr. Boni Halwale, former Senator Kakamega, is also here. Samson Cherargei, Senator for Nandi, is joining us online. And Sylvia Kasanga, nominated Senator as well. Sylvia, I'll start with you on this issue. There's been proposals to have committees to be put in place to review this BBI again, but yet they said this is the final report. Is that the direction we should take?
Thank you, Trevor. I thought I will not come first on this one, but let's pay attention that it will go first.
Ladies first, ladies first.
Thank you for that. Yes, ladies first. Now, first, Trevor, there are a couple of things that I would like to put perspective to before I respond on anything to do with BBI. First is to appreciate the speech of the president during the launch, because what the president did was give us a glimpse of that inner circle up there on how the level of inclusivity happened. He thanked the prime minister for having put down his ambitions of people's president to come and do a handshake with him at that point in time, and we all remember how tense the country was. He also did mention with a lot of clarity that his deputy president was also involved, especially in the selection of the BBI team. And then thirdly, we also heard from all the other speeches that were made on how extensive the BBI process had been. And we all remember and we are all aware. They went around to all the 47 counties. They listened to submissions from very many stakeholders, from many groups. I mean, no need to repeat the different people who gave their first submissions. And then eventually we had the first draft. And then the team was tasked to go into the second area of review of the first draft. Again, they listened to a lot of submissions. I remember even Senate, we took our submissions. Then Women, we took our submissions. My party, Wiper Democratic Movement, we took our presentations on the second round. And now we have a final draft that has come out. What is the next course of action? First, it's not correct when we leaders go out and say there's not been enough public participation. I think if we are really honest, and we've always had this conversation, how much public participation must there be on certain issues? We're always debating that in our committees where we feel sometimes public participation is not adequate. But I think for this document, I believe, and I can say that I believe enough public participation has gone around. And where for me the hope lies is the fact that, like in any other bill of parliament, once it is introduced, there's room for debate. There's room for still some more public participation, even at parliament level. So I have no doubt that once these bills come in to parliament, we will have an opportunity to interrogate the areas where, as many members who presented during the launch, there's still some areas where we want to see some improvements. There are areas where we want to see some inclusions, maybe some parts we felt they were left out. And I'll tell you, even right now, Trevor, you know me, and mental health, I've been called Mama Mental Health. Mental health has been left out, whether it is on administrative level or whether it is on legislative proposals. It has been left out on this bill. And I feel that is a very big lapse, because mental health is a big issue. Post-COVID, Kenya requires a very aggressive approach towards reform on mental health if we're going to help our future generations. So for me, I feel that there's still room, and we are looking forward to a very robust, conversation in parliament once it comes. And I'm aware that our Justice and Legal Committee is in the process of, making a matrix so that this conversation can happen with a lot of inclusion in parliament, where we shall debate it and we shall have whatever is remaining to be brought back. And yes, and that is what we are looking forward to. I think that is the right way to go.
All right, Cherargei, let me bring you back in on this conversation. Should this document be renegotiated, so to speak, through a committee?
Thank you, Trevor. I think the first things first, the launch of this BBI was very underwhelming. We expected a lot of things that are radical, that would address a lot of serious issues, but it looks like it was a document for political expediency purposes. Number two is that I agree that the now under, I think, Article 118, the Constitution mandates that the Parliament does a public participation. And but the problem I have is, you saw the Senate Minority Leader yesterday in some funeral of course, these people are prone making such comments in funerals, saying that the roadmap to referendum is unstoppable, that we should do it quickly. I remember the former Prime Minister saying within 1 week, the county should have been able to pass so that it can be taken to Parliament. So the way it is being harried, the way somebody who wants to express reservations are being attacked politically is very sad. But I agree with the ANC party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, who said now that we have a document, let's now take it to experts. Remember, the people who did this process, led by Senator Yusuf Haji and other wazees, was just Barasa la Wazee. We need now to synthesize. We need now to relook and bring something that is more refined, so that even as we go to referendum or legislative or policy intervention, there is a committee that is in place to synthesize and refine the document into a very good document that captures, because there are so many. For example, as in Rift Valley, the BBI team never came to Eldoret or Nakuru. I didn't see anything that belonged to farmers. What we call guarantee minimum returns was not there. So therefore, at the end of the day, there are so many issues that we needed to be captured in the BBI. And even you remember the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto at Bomas, raised some critical issues that all of us agree. You remember the issue of IEBC, he raised the issue of agriculture, the issue of police, the issue of inclusivity, which I found the issue of gender, because, for example, now you are abolishing the women rep seats and bringing them to Senate, which is downgraded, the issue of the Senate. And I've seen, I think it is your media station and other media stations reported that there is a Senate retreat that only belongs to the pro-BBI. Then what the question would be, if you are holding a Senate weekend retreat, the people who are called pro-BBI, does it mean you are setting the country of us versus them, where some of the members of parliament, like some of us, who have critical and expressed reservation on this document, will not be allowed? Are
you saying you have not been invited to this retreat?
I have not been invited. It looks like the people who are going to wherever retreat, I don't know whether it's Naivasha or Mombasa, people who are just being selected, that I am told they are called pro-BBI proponents. The people who support the BBI have not received any communication, an SMS, and any official invitation. So it looks like the main architects, the main strategists of BBI want to set the country of us versus them by calling a pro-BBI meeting in exclusion of some of us who have expressed reservation on some certain clauses within this BBI document. And therefore, I think that is not good for the country. If we want to have a less protracted process of even going to referendum, we should ensure that we bring everybody on board. And I have expected President Uhuru Kenyatta to really say, when the Deputy President was being booed or heckled by some section of the Bomas delegates, the President should have told the people who are heckling the Deputy President that kindly stop, because we need everybody on board. But when the President failed to rein on some of these hecklers within the Bomas, it showed that we are setting the country into an intolerant process where divergent views are not be accommodated. And when you look at Senate Minority Leader yesterday saying, we don't have time to relook, we don't have time to renegotiate. Why are you forcing Kenyans into document that you don't want Kenyans to discuss and have a conversation? We are telling them to give us a break so that we can express our reservation and ensure we come up with a document that is acceptable across the board.
All right. Dr. Alwale, you know we were with you here before it was launched. Now it has been launched. Are you happy with the document?
I am extremely happy that we are where we are. Because the country must talk. Politics is dynamic, just like life is dynamic. However, we must insist that there must be order. In the absence of order, you're courting anarchy. Now, amendment of a constitution can be either limited to one article or just a few, or it can be an overhaul. Example of an amendment that is limited to just one article is, for example, what members of parliament were doing to achieve the 2/3 gender rule. That is unlimited. It can be fixed easily with less emotions and so on. But an overhaul of the Constitution, it is so sensitive that that kind of review actually requires an act of Parliament. When we amended the old Constitution, there was an act of Parliament, and I'm glad that I participated in creating that act, the 2008-2009 Constitution of Kenya Review Act. That act specified how the team of experts would be identified. What would be the composition of that team of experts? What would be the qualifications of an expert for him to sit on that committee? Yes. What would be the function of that committee? And finally, but not least, the roadmap. Now, as far as BBI is concerned, which seeks to overhaul the Constitution of Kenya, Kenyans, there is no act of Parliament speaking to how BBI should transact business, all the way from identification of committee experts and up to how it will do the roadmap. Now, in the absence of that, two things obtain. The first one is that the process is illegal, the process is unconstitutional, and the second one is that any expenditure on BBI is actually against the law. Yeah. Now, be that as it may, we are where we are. Yeah. Being where we are, I expect James Orengo, especially, and Raila Odinga, they're the senior most on that side of BBI. I expect them to have a quick memory of what happened in Kilifi. This boasting and just thumping that you are hearing that we had at the funeral over the weekend is exactly what Wako did and Kreitu when they forced us ministers and assistant ministers to Kilifi, and they told us that this draft will be that way. When we came out in 2005, the rest is history. Okay. It went on up to and including post-election violence, because we were not responding to the issues raised from negative feedback. Yeah. We only wanted positive feedback. So at Bomas, why I'm happy that it was there, is that much as he was booed, and I'm not saying this because I am in his corner, much as he was booed, the deputy president raised 6 questions, which if we fail to answer, I can assure those big people with the big money, BBI will flop. So, what we should now talk about is how do we improve the document that was brought by this unconstitutional and illegal committee called BBI. Okay. How do we improve it?
Wematangi.
Yes, Trevor.
Should this be amended further?
No.
For how long will it be amended?
Trevor, let me set the pace of what I think in my mind about the process and about where we should be. First, Trevor, I believe verily, absolutely, that most of the conversation you hear we are having right now, we should not be having it. Okay. Because the way we should understand this process in good faith is that there was the need and there was the first initial steps that were taken to initiate this discussion. And that's why that committee was formed. They went around, they collected views and so on. And finally, they have brought something on the table, a document that now is the subject with the content of discussion. That is the point at which we engage. And then we would be asking ourselves, now what is the best well and good-willed way forward for this discussion? Now, when you start from there, then you are able to find your way around every of those issues. As long as you start with first, have a positive approach to what is intended to happen. And finally, you are not going to have any disagreements. You can even agree to disagree as it is. Yeah. Now, a few things, but I'll limit them maybe to just two. First, Trevor, you don't expect that committee to have done anything else than what they did. Collect the views, distill them into a few points that are understandable, make suggestions on where you want to amend, and then place it on your table. You are the people who have been given the role of leadership, especially yourselves as elected leaders and others. Now, this is what we've given you. Drive it. Get views. For anyone to tell you or tell anyone at this time, Trevor, that after Kenyans have now looked at that document that they don't have questions in their minds, that person will be lying. There are thousands of questions on Kenyans' minds and lips. Those questions have got to be answered moving forward. And when those questions are being answered, That is how we are going to find a solution. Let me say, Trevor, indeed, if I had gotten an opportunity to speak during the launch of BBI, the first thing I would have been proposing to His Excellency the President, and I would even be, and I would still be proposing it now and wherever I speak about the process from now onwards. My suggestion was, for the next 30 days, the President launched and showed us our good, talented Kenyan young people, whom he called the Germans in quotes, when we were responding to the issues about a Huduma number and so on. And that's a good thing. Mandate that team, for example, let them establish a platform, give it a code 221100, 221100, and make this a platform where all BBI questions from everybody is answered. Say, maswali yako ya BBI yajibiwa hapa. Tuma ujumbe wako hapa. Send you an, what does this clause say? What does it? And do you know, Trevor, by now, out of our population of 50 million, we have got more than 20 million subscribers in our networks around the country. Give a 30-day period where every Kenyan with a question will send their question to that platform, and they get a logical answer, or at least as far as best an answer to what the questions are. And that way, continuously we start to build consensus. Every view, every question that every Kenyan has got to be continuously answered to the day of the referendum. There should be no stop point or barrier that says that now stop talking and then go voting. Even to the last day, questions will still have to be asked. And that is how you build consensus with people. There is absolutely no way we are going to build a Berlin Wall between those who have this view and any other view. And that was the message of the President. I do not know where people get these other views. The President was extremely clear. He said, ladies and gentlemen, here is the document you have been given. Go talk. Go get views. And then once you have listened to all this, let's go back and ask ourselves, how do we embrace or deal with these issues? I do not think, by the way, even when the Deputy President was giving his views, myself, I was seated, I was comfortable, I was solid. He has a right, like every other Kenyan, to go and say all the things he wants to say and have his questions answered. I do. The other person has. The other person has. And I want to congratulate the President also in how he handled issues on that day, because he was a statesman more than anything else on that day. You would have expected that he would have risen up and started taking issue. Or you even saw when the Deputy President came now to talk to him in camaraderie and the relationship they've had. I mean, he was easy. He was not throwing and breathing fire. And he was very welcoming and also accommodative, and he illustrated well the kind of relationship and journey they have walked with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. That is what you want to see. Indeed, that one single day at Bomas was the best image of how you would want this BBI, with Raila on this side, with Ruto on this side, with the President in the middle, and they give the true view of then what building bridges should look like and should be. And so I don't think that I would want to support any view that says, oh, we are looking at a point whereby we want to box the Deputy President to a corner, and then we take on Raila on this side and run with it. That's not how this is going to work, because every of those people, not even Ruto, not even Raila or Uhuru, even the guy sitting at the corner has got somebody who listens to him. I mean, that disabled person who has got a family that listens to him. This is a process for all of us. So I want to summarize my views and say this, that onwards, for us to succeed in this process, because we want a better Kenya, I absolutely agree that those changes that have been proposed in the BBI are good subject points to talk about. At the end of the day, we are going to have that referendum. We are going to have issues that we have agreed upon. I do not think that this process was initiated with any ill will at all. I mean, our first thoughts earlier, Trevor, and sorry for taking a bit longer, our first thought, and if you listen to many people, was that people thought that this is a document with a hidden ill motive. Now, when it was brought out, people started using terms like what you've heard Senator Cheragai saying. It was underwhelming, because they expected that it is going to come and be rained on people. You know, you get what I mean? So let us be sober. Let us be true to what we are called upon as Kenyans, and especially as leaders, to do. Guide this country to a better future. You know, and let's be objective. We are going to have a good document.
All right, hold that thought in just a bit. We are still continuing the BBI conversation. Should we go to Tanzania now? Great. So let's cross over to our neighboring Tanzania, where now election results have already started streaming in. We've seen a bit of celebrations here and there. As this is happening, Tanzania's main opposition leader says there's been shameless, widespread vote rigging in the Wednesday's elections, as this is happening right now. And joining me on phone is Abdullah Makame. Abdullah Makame is a local observer there. He's in Zanzibar right now as we speak. Mr. Abdullah, thank you so much for making time for us. What is your reaction to, what have you observed so far in terms of what the opposition leader is saying, that there's been shameless, widespread vote rigging?
Well, what we observed is that we have a mandate to visit the campaign sites, so we went to the campaign meetings. We saw that the meetings were orderly, and also we went to polling stations. We saw that materials arrived on site in time, and the polling stations opened on time at 7 o'clock and it closed at 4 o'clock. And we actually monitored the actual observation, the voting process, and we saw that the voters were being given ample time to vote, and the ones who were disabled, special interest groups, were given access, preferential access. I mean, they won't get to wait long on a queue. Disabled, old people, pregnant ladies, and people of that nature. So on that particular front, everything was okay. What was an issue here in Zanzibar is, you know, it is the first time we are having an early poll. We had 2 days of polling. The actual polling was yesterday. And the day before yesterday, on 27th, we had an early polling. And early polling, this is the first time it is being implemented. And it was done so particularly to cater for the people who are offering service during the polling day. Maybe the men in uniform. Maybe the people who are doing, who are working with the Electoral Commission, doctors, those kind of people were also given. But they were supposed to be registered prior to polling on 27th. So that was done by law. There was a law that was passed to allow for that, and that law was participatory. We were informed. All major political parties were involved and assented to that being implemented. So toward the polling day, actually when the presidential contenders were returning their votes for contesting presidency, the presidential contender for the party, ACT party, the main contender here in Zanzibar, historically he was contending for presidency since we started the multi-party in 1995, expressed a differing view from that of his party, that he was of a view that the early polling day shouldn't be, exercised. So the Electoral Commission responded that the early polling day was an issue which was discussed extensively and widely, and it went through all the processes, and it involved all parties, including ACT. And it went to the level of the House of Representatives, and it was passed into a law and there was no way now that they can stop implementing it because it is anchored in law.
Makame, as an observer, how would you describe the general voting process?
The voting process?
Yes.
The voting process was smooth.
Okay.
There was, it was orderly. People presented their IDs and they voted. And after voting, they were advised that they should go back home because, you see, the main, as I was saying, the issue of early polling made the language in campaigning, especially the campaign for closing for the ACT, to be like an insightful campaign.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. It wanted, the leader, Honorable Sharif Hamad, was calling for people who are not registered in the early voting to go into the polling day on 27th.
All right.
And that is what was seen like he was trying to ignite violence or protests, which was not, I mean, the order. And the Electoral Commission had warned him earlier and banned him for 5 days from campaigning.
Mr. Makame, finally from me, what has been the impact of some places where there's reports that internet users of WhatsApp and Twitter were blocked? Have you had such complaints, and what has been the impact? That
one is a valid complaint. It's not like what I see is I'm not sure if they were blocked, but generally people were not accessing internet, Twitter, even the WhatsApp images were not being downloading the way we normally download.
Yeah.
And some other people are saying it's due to traffic. Others saying maybe it's an interference in the system of the network. But what happened, people were advised to download VPN Turbo. And now most of the people have downloaded VPN Turbo and they're surfing okay. But that is a valid observation.
All right.
That there is slow internet traffic.
Mr. Makame, have they started receiving results from different regions? How many have come in? And the results are supposed to be out within a week. But based on the speed you're seeing, how many have come in?
Yeah. Well, I can't verify the exact number because they are trickling in. As even when you're speaking now, the results are still trickling in.
Yeah.
And most of the results are coming, and we are seeing what we are seeing is there's a change in the political landscape.
Okay.
In Zanzibar, for example, Sheikh Sharif Hamad, the main opposition, his party used to dominate Pemba Island. Since 1995, there was no victory for CCM in Pemba.
Okay.
But this time around, there is a change. And there's major victory for CCM in Pemba.
Okay.
And again, the chairperson of Chadema, the main opposition in Tanzania, Freeman Boy, had been the member of parliament of high constituents since 1995. He's lost it again. So again, there's another major MP in there, the southern region.
Yeah.
You know, this hip-hop, bongo flavor. You have Mr. Tu, they call him Mbilini. Honorable Mbilini has been a member of parliament of that constituent in there.
Okay.
And a very, very strong candidate there.
All right.
He has a great political following.
Okay.
But again, he's lost his seat. So what we are seeing, those are the major observations you can pick.
All right.
But,
thank you, Abdullah.
The elections, the results are coming, but from what we are seeing is there is a major victory for CCM.
All right.
Both in Tanzania mainland and Zanzibar.
All right.
But for the one in Zanzibar, majority of the people, from what we are seeing, from what we've heard they're saying, is that they're saying because of the you know, the candidate fielded by the opposition had been there since 1995. Maybe people wanted to have a change.
All right. Thanks, Abdullah.
The candidate fielded by CCM is a young person who has been experienced, relatively mature, but not as old as the other one.
All right. Thanks, Abdullah.
That's what we're gathering.
Abdullah Makame, thank you so much. Abdullah Makame is a local observer there in Zanzibar in Tanzania. We'll be speaking to him later on as well to find out what's going on there. There are more than 15 candidates who are running. Tanzania's main opposition power leader says there's been shameless, widespread vote rigging in the Wednesday elections. Let's wind up our conversation here on the BBI. And Senator Cherargei, I'd like to bring you back in on this. On Tuesday, I was speaking to the majority leader of the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya. All right, we seem to have we don't have Cherargei for now. As soon as he's back in, I'd like to pose that question to him. Let me know when he comes back. And so, Dr. Alwale, I'll come back to you on this issue. When I spoke to the National Assembly majority leader, Honorable Amos Kimunya, he said there's a party position, and any MP who feels like they don't want to abide to that should just ship out. Is this how the referendum question is going to turn out? Is it going to be a yes or no, the BBI report adopted as is, or what is going to happen from there?
The more things change, the more they remain the same. I remember in 2005, Honorable Kirayuti was Minister for Constitutional Affairs and so on.
Yeah.
And Kimunya was a powerful Minister of Finance and stuff. No, not Finance then. He was another minister. So when we were in Bomas in 2005, they walked out of the conference because they were feeling the way he's feeling now, that they had the power. So that kind of talk is not going to move the country. What should not be lost to Kimunya is that he was in Bomas as an ally of the president. And together with him were allies of Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
So what was going on in Bomas, Honorable Kimunya, was not a national conversation. It was a conversation on a conversation that had been started by two Kenyans.
Yeah.
And that conversation was being done together with their allies. And that's why you saw a very reasonable response from the Deputy President attracted and called for booing.
Yeah.
So what Kimunya should be doing now, and other Kimunya-like thinkers, is to respond to the issues. We are asking, do you want the executive to appoint a prefect and put that prefect in the judiciary so that, in the name of an ombudsman, so that this man will be making sure that the right judgment is written, so that this man will be making sure that any judge who moves away from it is perceived to be deserving disciplinary action? Those are the questions. We want, in this conversation that we are asking for, by right, to be convinced that political parties, if they recommended commissioners to IEBC, it would level the playing ground. Already, Kimunya, you know, that we had the Greek Law Commission, which spoke to this thing at length very professionally. It had membership, that Commission of Greek Law, had membership of people whose competences is nowhere compared to what we had on the so-called BBI team of experts. So some of us who respect professionalism would rather we go by the Greek Law report. They have said that IEBC membership should be concluded at least 2 years before the general election, and two, that when you are identifying commissioners, it should be done competitively. Now, when you bring in political parties who are interested parties to also be referees of the game, what kind of game shall you have? Allow me to conclude.
Very briefly.
This is very important. We would like people to know that the issue of winner take it all is the rule of the game of competition. When you are in any competition, there must be a winner or a loser. Anything else moving from it, you are proposing, can I? You're proposing that the person who is number one, if you don't want the winner take it all, the person who will be number one should be president, and the person who was number two should be prime minister, and the person who was number three, first deputy prime minister, the person who was number four, second deputy prime minister. How would you run that kind of government of adversaries?
Fair concept.
So it is a hypothetical thing, which is not practical.
All right. Wamatangi, as we wind up on this conversation, first, have you been invited for this meeting by the Senate? And is there a party position?
Yes, don't I start with that one?
Okay.
Isn't it?
Very briefly, because I want you to give the concluding
on what you'd call a party position. I think maybe when Kimunya is speaking about a party position, I would want to summarize it as such, that if there is a party position, the party position is this, in my view, that there is a conversation that has been initiated. That conversation must proceed in an environment that is well-intentioned, that is positive-minded, to give everybody an opportunity to have the result. And that party position should and will culminate in the will of Kenyans finally being expressed in a referendum, if we go there. That should be the party position, and that every view will be accommodated. But of course, it also must include that any deviators, any people who want to either derail the process, of course, will, for that matter, if they are ill-intentioned or bent on making it fail, then definitely they are not welcome, because they will not be allowed to derail the will of majority of Kenyans. But it has to be an open process. Let me make just two comments as we close very quickly. First is I believe, Trevor, that in due time, the specifics of the issues that would be contentious or that require a discussion, in our previous discussions on Thursdays, if we proceed, you can give us an opportunity. If it is this question that we think is contentious or the other is contentious, give us time that we can come and discuss on this 2/3 gender rule, on the model and structure of the executive and so on, such that we can help Kenyans where we can to understand this better. You know, let me make my final comment, and I think one of the ills and challenges we face, Trevor, is this, that you know, our politics and politicians, for that matter, in the way we have run our country in the past, from when we started and got our leadership, our thinking in politics is so warped, it is so destroyed and ruined, such that we believe verily when you're elected into a political leadership, or for you to think that you are worth leading, that in every issue that is contentious, unless there is blood and broken bones, then you don't have a political process. It is possible, like I said the last time, to have a discussion that is sober, that is proper, and have a result. And finally, on how do you want to go about on this winner-take-all thing? I believe each of all of us and each nation must have, and any community for that matter, you would need to have your own modeled, call it designed, call it guided, if you like, way of how do you want to fit your own community, your own nation into leadership, such that you have what works for you, what works for your people. I believe the background of all this, when we are talking about the structure of leadership, how do you want it to look like, who should sit where, should and is supposed to reflect on our history, our intention, our structural makeup, our ethnic communities, such that what we have as our constitution will be our own, and then we can own it to serve our purpose and our intention.
All right.
Yes.
Kasanga, wind up on this for us. Where do we go from here? How do we build consensus? Very briefly.
Thank you, Trevor. I'll first go and then I'll come back, so to speak. First, we have to admit and understand that any society that wants prosperity for its people must have conversations about its own governance. And our governance must be inclusive, it must look towards equity, and must have public participation component to it. So for me, it is very critical, the items that are on the top of our minds as Kenyans, starting with the gender principle. Secondly, on inclusivity and shared prosperity, questions that are still outstanding up to today. Electoral reforms, you know, issues of electoral reforms, which we have seen coming back over and over again in every electoral cycle. Issues of efficiency in public service. Trevor, we know those challenges are there, and we need to have these conversations. And lastly, and most importantly, is strengthening devolution.
Yeah.
These 5 points, as far as I'm concerned, are conversations that we must continuously have as a nation.
Yes.
And like Senator Matangi has said, in fact, remove the words from my mouth completely, is that we have to, even as we look at other countries and other jurisdictions where they have models that work, models of governance that work, we must continuously look inwardly to ourselves so that we have a model that works for Kenya, given all the backdrop of all the issues that we've had, and Trevor. And this is really, really critical for me.
Yeah.
So all the points that were brought out during the launch of the BBI from all our leaders, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, Honorable the DP, of course, the DP also raised very pertinent issues. All those issues must be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Our support for BBI does not mean that we are closing our eyes on the outstanding issues. No, no, no.
Okay.
We want to have these conversations. And I agree with Senator Matangi. Call us so that we can have point by point. Call us, we talk about the gender principle, for instance.
Yeah.
Because in as much as there's a view that there's been an expanded place for women, we are still wondering why the National Assembly is still not clear the 2/3 gender principle, whether it has really applied in the National Assembly as proposed here.
Yeah.
And those are some of the conversations we are definitely going to carry through.
Okay.
But that does not mean we don't support. These are conversations we must have.
Okay.
We must continuously look inwardly. We must continuously be ready
All
to
right.
tweak and look at our structures. And finally, we shall get to a point where we have something that works for us.
All right.
And of course, Trevor, I must talk about mental health.
Yeah.
I have shouted about mental health. Stakeholders have shouted about mental health to the point where we even saw a mental health task force report that came out, very comprehensive recommendations, which have not reached the BBI today, Trevor. And I'm looking for support. I'm looking for help. Honorable members who are there on the panel, Honorable Matangi, Honorable Boni Khalwale, I need help because this country has a serious public health concern of mental health. And this must be put into the BBI as we go forward for posterity and for our generation coming ahead.
All right.
Thank you, Trevor.
Honorable Sylvia Kasanga, nominated senator, thank you so much for making time. Samson Cherargei, Senator Fernandi, was with us earlier on. He left in a bit. Dr. Boni Halwale, former Senator Kakamega, thank you so much. And Honorable Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Senator, asante sana for making time. We'll do this again next Thursday. And we're taking a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, it's time for cooking tips with Chef Ali, right? He's not in studio though, but we're cooking anyway. Thank you.